guys, in this video I'd like to tell you a little bit about my studio setup here, and I'd like to talk about some of the technical aspects of this setup that I feel like are working particularly well. So if you need some inspiration or you're interested in this sort of thing and you feel like nerding out with me for a few minutes, that's what this video is all about. Later on, I'm going to do a more involved tour of this studio where I will film a lot of the different parts of it and how it's all put together. But for this video, I'm just going to show you some of my new camera views and some of the tech accessories that makes this possible. Now, the main purpose of this setup is to allow me to teach reasonably high quality piano lessons in real time and also asynchronously. That means I would record basically a piano lesson on a particular subject using different camera views, and I would upload that to my membership for the students that I am supporting who are studying classical music. And if you want to learn more about that, you can visit my website. And so in order to do these two things, especially the membership, but to some extent YouTube as well, I need to be able to turn video content really fast. And that means I want to spend as little time editing as possible. And I don't want to have to lay windows on top of one another or whatever and merge camera feeds after. I want to be able to do that in real time so that I can capture it as I need it with one button press and have a piece of content that just appears on my desktop, and then I upload that or trim it or whatever. The whole point is supposed to be fast. It's supposed to be very turnkey. And actually, I feel like I have achieved that. I'm really happy with this setup because it lets me make content really fast and mostly frustration-free. Now, if you're interested in the particulars of what I use, there is a web page that I have on my website, which is basically my website/equipment. You can find the link in the description. And I offer a little blurb about all of the different pieces of tech that I use. And I'm only talking about things that I either have used or I am currently using. So it's not even what I recommend, it's what I'm actually using. So if you want to know what I'm using and why, you should check out that link. Now, the thing that makes this setup work is an application called OBS, which is short for Open Broadcaster Software. And I talked about this earlier in the year because I always wanted to run an OBS setup. Because OBS lets me put together a bunch of different camera feeds and a bunch of different scenes, and I can send it to Zoom or I can record it. And that gives me a lot of flexibility in real time, and it decreases the amount of editing I might need to do, which lets me make videos a lot faster. The problem with OBS, or really it's not with OBS, it's with this. This is my 2019 MacBook Pro, and it's an Intel-based Mac, and I really like this computer. It's really great. I use it for a lot of things, but I no longer use it in this setup because I bought the Mac M1 Mini, and that is what's allowing me to use OBS. When I used this laptop before, basically anytime I started OBS or I started Zoom, the fans would spool up and it would pretty much trash my content, and I couldn't use noise reduction or anything like that because then that would distort the sound of the piano. So I really just couldn't use the OBS. I had to film everything as I needed to film it with whatever cameras. And then in a video editor later, I could merge the files and do whatever it is that I needed to do, which took forever. So the Mac, the M1 Mac, and all of the M1 Macs are like this, by the way. Whether they have a fan or not, this one does have a fan. It's the Mac Mini. It has a fan. You'll never hear it. You won't know what the fan sounds like. And it's very fast, and it runs really cool. And so it just completely is the key to making a setup like this work. And so you really can't use, if you're going to use Apple stuff, which by the way, there's a lot of aspects of this setup that really require the Apple ecosystem. If you want to use that, you'll have to use one of the M1 chips, or you'll have to use an older computer like one of the Mac Pros, or something that doesn't have such annoying fan sounds. So that's kind of key to how this works. Another key to how this works is this cool little thing right here called a Stream Deck. There's a Stream Deck Mini. And I have basically a bunch of macro commands on here, and I've got a bunch of pages on it. I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. But this lets me do a lot of different things that control my studio setup where I don't have to interact with my mouse or keyboard. For example, I can change my camera like that with just a button press. Or I could stop this recording or start this recording. Or I could turn on and off my lights, which I'm going to demonstrate in just a minute. Or I can press a button and it'll start all my applications that I need for teaching and get everything all ready for me. So then I can just start teaching after I press this button, like 10 seconds after. I've got my organ over here that needs to be powered on and needs software to run. So I have a one button little command here that will turn on the organ and run the software and basically allow me to practice, which is really, really cool. Turns on all the lights over there too. And then I've got a bunch of like lesson timers here, and I've got some toggles for my camera and microphone for when I am on Zoom. So this thing is really, really cool, and it lets me do a lot of really cool things. And one of the things that I mentioned is it controls my lights. So I have a light right here, which is lighting this side of my face. And then I have a light that's over here lighting the wall, which basically gets the front of my face. And then I've got a light over here, which gets the side. And all three of these lights allow me to back up and move around however I need to move around while still being fully illuminated. And so I need more than one light in order to be able to do that. And I don't want to have to turn them all on each time. So I just want to be able to press this button. I'm going to show you. Here's what happens if I press this button. It's going to turn them all off. Right? Now I'm dark. So the light behind my monitor just came on. And so if I press this again, turns the monitor light off, turns these studio lights on, and then this one. One button. That's a toggle. That's what the Stream Deck lets you do. That is a really cool feature. Okay? And of course, the lighting makes any camera look good. And so that's kind of part of this too. And then speaking of cameras, I wanted to talk a little bit about my camera views here. So I have an overhead webcam. I have this side profile camera. It's my mirrorless camera. But then if I click this button, you can see my overhead setup. There's a nice clean overhead setup that I'm probably going to start using more to make regular piano performance content. It's nice and clean. It looks good. It's using the Brio, which is a camera that I feel like is particularly good at this. And one cool thing about OBS is that I have the Brio mounted to the wall, and the Brio is looking down, like it's mounted to the wall this way and it's looking down. So if you were to use this camera normally, without any kind of changing or flipping of the image, whatever, it's going to be backwards and upside down. So OBS allows me to correct that in real time and mount the camera however I want and flip the image and make sure that the feed is the right orientation for the student. So that's really cool. Another thing I can do with some of my camera views is like I have this camera view, which has my logo and it has a side profile, and then it's got the piano cam, right? But I'm going to probably switch to, oops, not that one. I'm going to switch to this, where is it? This one. I'm going to switch to this camera view, get rid of the logo, have a bigger picture up top. It's a cleaner image, and once again, this is something that OBS allows you to do. The next thing I'd like to show you, which is actually something I discovered yesterday, it's an interaction between the iPad and a new operating system update that Apple just released for both the Mac and the iPad. Basically, what you are able to do now is you're able to AirPlay from the iPad directly to the Mac. And so when I do that, basically what happens is that the iPad screen takes over the Mac screen. And it's essentially doing this layer on top of my desktop. And while I'm doing this, I can't really do anything with my computer. Like I can press buttons and stuff, but I can't see what's actually happening because my iPad screen is now on my monitor. And I'm sure there's a lot of use for that or whatever, but I don't really need that feature. But what I really like is that there is a desktop recording feature in OBS. And that allows me to pick up the feed from the desktop in a high quality, wireless, very reliable sort of way. So I'm going to demonstrate that here. And I want to show you how this works. This is so cool. I found this on accident. But I sort of changed how my setup works to take advantage of this, okay? So what I'm going to do, let me make sure I have my Stream Deck camera thing here. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to AirPlay to my Mac. And so now what is happening is that this screen here is fully taking over my Mac screen. I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. It should look like this. This is what you should see. You're seeing my iPad. I can draw on here. I can flip the pages. I can do like double page display mode here, right? Although I'm going to go back because everything's really tiny. So first of all, this is cool, and I can do this in lessons, and I can do this in my content. I can basically make it be a whiteboard or go around this music or whatever. I can zoom in on specific notes, like that's super helpful. But check this out. I am able to capture the borders of this desktop feed and put it in this window where it perfectly fits, and I've got my side profile camera. I've got my iPad cam, so I can move this around and still show students things while I'm playing here or teaching a particular concept or whatever. This is a very flexible setup, and I can make really great content with it, and you're definitely going to see some footage that's been inspired by this setup soon. And of course, I will put a lot of this stuff in my membership as well. So this is a really cool thing that I am able to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. And then now you can see my desktop thing, but I'll go ahead and back that up and show you my normal view here. And that's basically a little bit about how this setup works. Now, one other thing, probably a very important thing, my mic setup. So I have 2 stereo mics on top of the piano, and I've got another shotgun mic right here. And I think I've talked about this before, but I'm still using a similar setup, and it's all running through a Zoom H8. And the Zoom H8 has its own mics, but I have that disabled. I only use that when I need to film something like upstairs or out of the house or whatever. But when it's connected to these stationary mics, I just have it like this. So the cool thing about this setup is it is a stereo setup on the piano, and it's a mono setup from my mic here. That means my voice is captured the best way that it can be, and the piano is captured the best way that it can be. And the effect of that is that you get a nice wide soundscape. Even in Zoom, Zoom supports stereo. At least if you are if your student is on they're running the desktop version of Zoom, they can hear it in stereo, which sounds 1,000 times better than mono. People complain about Zoom audio all the time. If you know what you're doing and you have a good internet connection, Zoom has like best in class audio. They've got really good support for musicians and pro hardware. And so I'm fully taking advantage of that, but of course I'm taking advantage of that in my membership as well. And so between the good lighting and the different camera setups and the mics and how it's all turnkey and it all plugs into the Stream Deck here and it's easy to control, I've got this setup here that lets me create great content fast. And that's just been a great delight because I've been able to fill my membership with like hundreds of videos. And they're good. They're all just like piano lessons, exactly as I would have them for a student live, except for they're better quality because of bandwidth limitations being higher for recorded content versus when I'm live with a student. So that has just been an amazingly helpful thing that a lot of this tech allows me to do. And the whole AirPlay thing requires the Mac, but for the most part, a lot of this can be replicated on Windows, just not the wireless thing from the Mac, from the iPad. So anyway, I hope that this video was at least interesting to you. Now, if you want to become a piano student, study some classical music, and be a recipient of some of this content, feel free to check out my website and my membership. And once again, if you're interested in the particulars of the devices that I'm using here, feel free to check out my equipment page. And that's all for this video. I'll show you the bigger studio tour soon, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.